Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am your host, Paul Herman, and we're going right into it based upon Oxymon's recommendation from our previous show. So here I am, here at Paul Herman with my best friends in the world over here, Chris Clow. Right, Chris?
Oh, I was muted.
And then
Sorry.
also,
Hello.
oh, yeah, come on. What are we doing? We're doing it live, Bill Riley style. Yes. And also comic book extraordinary writer Joe Corallo. And I would say right now, Joe, I would say Legion of Superheroes historian. I think you need this. You need the we have the Reverend and we have the historian now. We have that's an appropriate title for you, the Legion of Superheroes historian, which we started this journey so long ago. And
we did.
I just want to say this right now. I don't want this to end. I want to keep it going until there's no more Legion stories, until you tell me what I need to skip and not to skip. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this in the first place, because Legion has always been a blind spot. I've always said that, but there's two main reasons why I wanted to always do this show. One was the Jim Shooter era, because that was fascinating to me, which you have taught me so much on, and I'm glad we did it. And then the Great Darkness Saga, which is the Paul Levitz and Keith is it Giffen guy? I always say Giffen, right? Yeah. Giffen. Mm-hmm. The Keith Giffen run, was like the pinnacle of the run as far as I know. And so, we're here now. And before I throw it to you, I want to ask, and I think we've asked this Chris before, but Chris, we're going to talk about the Great Darkness Saga. What is your you've read this before, this whole thing, right? Before Joe gave us this homework.
It was a long time ago, relatively speaking, but yes, I have read it before.
Okay.
You know what I didn't, and I think this is just kind of a preamble before we actually dive into the specifics of the story, but it's hard not to look at this story for what it means for the wider DCU, because one of the things I didn't really realize at the time that I first read it, by the time you start like jumping in as a comic book fan in, let's say, modern, quote unquote, modern DCU, let's say like late 90s, early 2000s, Darkseid is a very well developed entity as not just like a physical threat, but also an idea, right? Mm-hmm. But the origin of Darkseid as an idea of evil, as opposed to just being a physical confrontational force for the heroes to go up against, really, it seems to me anyway, and Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's traced back here. And the infusion of evil, it's really hard, like as a Grant Morrison fan, it's really hard not to see the Great Darkness Saga as like foundational for what Morrison would do with Darkseid in Seven Soldiers and in Final Crisis. Because in Final Crisis, as much as he's a physical force, he is also like, how do you fight an idea when it's so pervasive and when it infects the minds of so many people? And this was really the first story, at least as far as I can tell, that grabbed that idea, ran with it, and took it in a pretty terrifying direction. You don't get to the kind of bastardizations that Darkseid engages in later in the DCU without the first domino falling here. And so that's why I would argue it's like essential reading. If you're a student of the DCU, you should not sleep on this. And it feels like people kind of are, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. No, you're right. Prior to this, what Jack Kirby did, and again, what Jack Kirby did was incredible. I love the Fourth World. I got the 2 absolute editions of that. It's incredible stuff. But like, I'm a big fan of that and Jack Kirby in general. I actually recently reread the entire Stanley Jack Kirby Thor run, which is basically his like first go at something like Fourth World, because what happened is part of his falling out with Marvel was he was like, I want to actually do Ragnarok, wipe out the gods and create new gods. And when Stan was like, no, he went to DC and literally created the new gods. So, and that's where we get that, but like Darkseid in that, it's still leaning into a lot of like creation myths and stuff like that, which is great, but it wasn't this concept of Darkseid as this all corrupting evil force that can transcend centuries and millennia even. Like, it was a shock that Darkseid was the villain here. Like,
Wow.
it was a like, oh, like that was like a true mind blown. People were like, oh my God, like that's crazy, because who would have thought that? Like that was the first time the Legion really dealt with that. They had dealt with alien races in the present day existing in the current day. They had dealt with time traveling villains, but they hadn't dealt with a force that was like just persistent evil that survived up until their time. Like this was truly a big swing. And Paul like just got this book back and was really setting it up. And it was just a wild thing to do. And you see, like, and you know, we're going to go into it because we start with what's technically Paul's very first issue, which is of his second run, which is 281, where he's dealing with the plot threads that Roy Thomas had, and is like, you can see in the first few issues, like the first couple issues or so, it's really like, fuck, what are we even doing with this Reflecto shit? And him having to like tie up this very convoluted story that was really like not like Roy Thomas, like he's done some great stuff. I've enjoyed a lot of comics that Roy Thomas did. I think he maybe for DC, probably, you know, All-Star Squadron might be his best stuff. You know, over at Marvel, probably his like Avengers run after Stan, I think, where he created like Ultron, Vision, and everything. But like, he didn't have a love for the Legion, and I think that's very clear. He had a love of story, and he's creating a story and like leveraging stuff from the Legion, but he doesn't have that love that Paul has, and neither did Jerry Conway to the extent that Paul did. I think Jerry wrote some solid comics because he's a very good writer, but his heart wasn't in it like Paul. This run, and I think you both agree, for what I can tell, like, this run is clearly written by a guy who thought, fuck, I had my one shot and I blew it. But if I ever get this book again, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And that really shines through once he's done with those first couple of issues or so, where it's like Roy Thomas, as soon as that's done, once we get to like, I think it's issue like 284, it's like boom, like it's like we're off to the races. Like he is really going for it. And
so
yeah.
Yes, you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you. So now this all takes place, and when him and Keith are on this together, is this late 70s or early 80s?
This is early 80s. You know, we're in like what was it like? Let me see. I have my copy right here, so I can like tell you. Yeah, this is starting in like 82.
Okay, so he hasn't, because doesn't when Jeanette Kahn because Jeanette Kahn has taken over by now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, is he an editor? I mean, he's always been an editor, I think, even before this. But but he gets he kind of goes higher up when she gets on. That's what I always kind of assumed was. Am I misplacing this?
No, he ends up becoming a vice president of the company within the 80s.
Okay.
He was I think he gets a lot of credit for like hiring Karen Berger, because Karen Berger started as his assistant.
Okay.
And you know, and I believe he is one of like 3 editors that can take credit for hiring people like Alan Moore. So like,
Right.
you know, I think it's like him, Karen Berger, and I think someone else is involved. It might have been Jeanette Kahn, but like,
Yeah.
he ends up doing a lot of good for the business. And it's funny that both him and Jim Shooter end up running one of the big 2 at some point when they were teenagers writing the Legion. You know, and Paul's tenure, I think history has kind of shown, like, is one of the more like fondly remembered eras of DC at this point. Like when he took over, like very late 90s, I want to say, like into like up to about like 2009. And that like era around Infinite Crisis and like the early to like late 2000s, you get like a lot of Jeff Johns stuff there. Like he really was spearheading DC at a great time. And unfortunately, while there isn't an omnibus of the Great Darkness Saga, I believe the trade and the oversized hardcover are both currentently in print.
They are, yeah.
And this is collected in an omnibus, just the Great Darkness Saga, nothing else, is in an omnibus of like I think it's like Fourth World Omnibus Volume 2. That's all the stuff after Jack Kirby.
Okay.
So they included this story and like other stories where New Gods show up as well. So I do think we're getting to a point where they will probably either start collecting Paul's run, because after the current, like most of his run in the 80s is not collected. And there are some really great stories within that. You know, there's the Magic War, Universo Project, and other things that, you know, we'll go into. I think we'll probably do the Curse after this and kind of wrap up most of the rest of Paul and Keith's direct run. And then Keith shows up here and there after that. But it's Steve Lytle, some other people.
And this is effectively leading into what is the last decade of pre-reboot Legion, right? That's like 93, 94.
Yeah, like we're gonna I figure we'll do the Curse next, and then after that we'll do the lead up to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like just take the Legion through that. And then there's probably going to be 2 or 3 more before we get to 5 years later. And then that's when things start getting dicey. After 0 Hour, it just never quite, like there are moments, there's a great run from like Dan Abbott, Andy Lanning. Yeah, we'll get to that.
A great team. Great team.
Yeah.
Great team. Love them.
And
I always forget like I always forget they have such a, you know, great, you know, tenure of like random stuff. Like they have an Avengers West Coast run, you know, just like random stuff like that. And as well as like, you know, basically orchestrating the modern Guardians of the Galaxy, which I want to, I guess, you know, it's a good springboard, and we'll get into the issues here in a second.
Yeah.
But one thing that, as I'm reading this, guys, and Chris, I'm not sure how familiar you are. I'm not trying to be like, you haven't read this, but I'm pretty sure you haven't, because it's kind of a weird time, was the Guardians of the Galaxy by Jim Valentino. And as I'm reading this, Joe, I was like, Paul Levitt's Keith Giffen stuff. I'm like, I'm getting 100% Jim Valentino Guardians. Like, and I talked about it earlier, but I'm seeing the influence of this series. These stories specifically already, like the Great Darkness Saga, all that. I'm seeing all this all in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Jim Valentino era. Like, and it was successful. And it was, you know, but it's Guardians is one, at least that run specifically is 1000% Jim Valentino trying to do Paul Levitt's, like, you know, Guardians or Legion. So I was like, whoa, this is totally what like he's trying to do. It's I have a fondness for that era. It's not as well written as Paul Levitt stuff, but it's fun.
Sure.
But I immediately saw the influence of that series.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So
And you see a lot of the the interpersonal character drama and all of that you see in a lot of books, whether they're like cosmic or not. But you definitely see like Paul has a lot of affection for Isaac Asimov, Tolkien. Like you see a lot of elements from that in these books. I'm trying to think. There's some other like stuff, but he's such like a sci-fi fan, and I know Tolkien's not really, but like he for these specific stories, he was inspired by Tolkien and Ursula K. Le Guin, like a lot of like her stuff, like very specifically those authors here, and residual influence from Asimov, who inspired him in like his first run.
I wanted to jump back real fast to something our friend Robert said here. Because he's talking about it was so hard. You had to kind of try to get spoiled on stuff when these original stories were coming out. And I feel like the comparison is apt for the Great Darkness Saga to something like The Empire Strikes Back, where one of the unfortunate elements of reading it today is that a selling point is that revelation near the end of the story, right? And it's like that's what the story is known for. It was so it created such a shockwave that's what people know. But like, oh, the Great Darkness Saga, that's the Dark Side Legion story. But one of the things that I liked about the way that you curated the experience for us is the issues that you do give us, and we'll put a rundown on the screen at some point, but it gets you invested in these people. I mean, really running across, if you go back and we watch the previous Long Live the Legion streams that we've done, it's all about these characters. It's about learning what makes them tick, what makes the dynamic of the Legion team unique and special. So by the time you get to that point where it's like Darkseid is reawakened as this cosmic force of pure evil energy that's like a black hole that just sucks everything in, there is a lot more weight to it, and it feels like Great Darkness Saga really firmly connects the Legion to the DC universe in a way that not even Superboy could really accomplish. It's like Superboy is such a sporadic presence on the team that you kind of take it for granted. And it's also, it works a little bit differently because he's displaced from his own time. Whereas, first of all, there's just the shock of the fact that Darkseid has appeared. But also, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the history of Darkseid in the Age of Heroes is rather amorphous because they were still telling stories in the Age of Heroes in the regular part of the DCU line, right? So it's not like they could have a definitive endpoint for what they were doing with Superman and Batman and the Justice League, right? So there's this sort of quasi endpoint that Morrison kind of picks up in Final Crisis in a way, but that history, like Darkseid is not displaced. This is where he is, and he's pushing things forward in a way that makes all of these characters uncomfortable because they've literally never encountered an evil like this before. And it's one of the few things that gives such an advanced team like the Legion a disadvantage in comparison with the contemporary DC heroes, or certainly the gods on New Genesis, So I just love how it's almost like, it's not literal, of course, but it's like the color is sucked out of the book by the time Darkseid appears. It's like, how can they possibly overcome this. And like Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back, with that revelation about where he comes from, it's a shame that without really maneuvering it in the way that you have done very expertly, a lot of that context is lost unless you want to try to find it and sort of reinsert it into your experience after the fact. It's a very unusual kind of reading experience today, but a rewarding one for people who are willing to put in the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, if you don't mind, could you throw up the issues for us in the thing?
Yeah,
and then if we want to get started.
Give me a sec. I'll put them
all right. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you have time. So let's get started on the first issue here, which I want to say, like, I was kind of confused. I'm like, why did we should have maybe read this issue the last time? But I know what you were trying to do because you wanted to like separate, like, this is Roy Thomas, and and then Paul had to clean up Roy Thomas because I remember leaving when you were Flecto and Superboy. I'm like,
yep.
Oh, and then as we get here, like Paul Levitz is basically trying his best to like get this kind of all worked out, which was confusing as all hell. So we'll kind of get started here. As we go, what do you want to say about this issue in particular? Anything?
I mean, we'll probably keep this brief. Like we might do a little bit with the wildfire issue, but like basically here, is basically like, oh, it's the time trapper, and he was behind, the molecule man and the molecule master rather, and it's just like, it felt like Paul wanted to touch on a couple of things while he could that he probably wasn't going to go back to. So like, oh, let me address how Lana Lang was like Insect Queen. And like there's little bits like that. Let me take the Molecule Master and tie it back to the Time Trapper and do something with the Time Trapper, because the Time Trapper is not really going to be important to what Paul does for a long time.
Right.
So these are sort of like, okay, let's do this. We also have to resolve this Ultra Boy thing that he's gone missing, and Superboy thinks he's Ultra Boy. So like, they figure out how to do that enough. It's a very, it's a silly sort of story, but again, like that was Roy Thomas approaching the story, not caring about the characters and just looking at the world and being like, oh, well,
right.
What's the thing we could do? What's a mystery? Like, you could make the argument that Roy Thomas was approaching this as, and this is probably true, he was probably, if he was reading Legion when he was a kid, it would have been like the late 50s, early 60s stuff, like before Jim Shooter even.
Right.
So he was probably reading it at a time where like the stories were more like this of, oh, something weird's happening in Smallville, and who's this mystery Legionnaire, and and things like that. So that's basically where this happened. It's like the less we spend on this, probably the better. Molecule Master is an android who is in the service of Time Trapper. It turns out that Time Trapper was the mastermind behind this, I guess, plan. I guess it was a plan to divide the Legion, and through that they end up, Phantom Girl has to take some of them into her world to save them, and that is the impetus of like, oh, I think passing through we discovered that Ultra Boy is there, caught in between. Which to me feels like what probably happened, and I don't know this for a fact, but when you read it, I think it's safe to say that Roy probably had other ideas or wanted to like play with that longer, and Paul was like, nope, I gotta wrap this up and move on to the next thing. So like, hey, look, we found Ultra Boy, yay, and we just we barrel on because he needs Ultra Boy for his story.
Yeah. All right. So we got this issue was probably, I think, one of my favorites. Honestly,
Yeah.
Wildfire has always been one of my favorites.
Wait, hold on. Before we jump ahead, I just wanted to ask Joe if you know Ditko's name is on 281.
Yeah.
Were those completed pencils, or do you know if someone else did the finishes? Maybe
someone else did the finishes. Let me see, because I have it here. What was it? It was the finishes. It might have been Bruce Patterson. Yeah, okay. Bruce Patterson did the finishes. So Ditko did like the breakdowns, and then Bruce Patterson did the finishes. I believe, and thank you for stopping us. I believe this was the last Legion story that Ditko did, because shortly after this, he would wind up back at Marvel.
Doing Speedball.
Yeah, right. Doing Speedball, doing random fill-in issues of like Spectacular Spider-Man and Daredevil and just some random stuff. Some of it was good. A lot of it, but some of it was good. I mean, this Legion story is maybe the roughest of the ones he's drawn. Which again, it's just like, imagine reading that Ditko issue and then being like, and then 6 or 7 months go by and you're like, oh, let me check back in on the Legion. It's Keith Giffen. Imagine having that experience. Just be like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, and dude. It's
Giffen had left DC. He had left comics, really. Before this started, he was doing, what was his job? He was like a repo man or something to that effect. He's just like
something ridiculous like that, yeah.
And so he came back and gave them this. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah,
when we get to Giffen, I'll share what I shared to you, Joe. But yeah, this Wildfire issue, I forget. Did Paul create Wildfire, or was that some
Carrie Bates?
Carrie Bates. I know it was it was a very random issue, which is still not even available on DC Universe, which is first appearance. But it was really cool to get the full story of Wildfire, and just I need to get an action figure of Wildfire. I need it now. Yeah. Like I love him. He's fantastic. Like he's I love this issue a lot.
Yeah, no, it's like, and that's the thing. Like thinking on it, I was like, well, it's not like the most important to the overall plot, but I was like, we have to read this because it's a Wildfire backstory. Like we can't not read this issue.
Yeah, we had to read it. And that cover is incredible, by the way. That cover is great.
Oh yeah. No, it's a great cover. I think it's Jim Aparo too.
Oh damn. Okay.
And then like the interiors are Howard Bender, and like they're stronger interiors than Ditko's last go at it for sure. And
wrong.
It's like, and it's great getting this backstory for Wildfire, and some of those trainees are just mentioned with like just a throwaway line like later on when like they're talking about something, and Wildfire goes like, I'd feel better with like Crystal Kid and so with me at the but it's a great little tragic story, and it's a nice note for Roy Thomas to go out on, because this was clearly like, this had to be an inventory story, right?
I had it waiting around.
Like Roy Thomas probably had written, or they had this ready. It was like, as Paul is setting everything up, he probably needed a little extra time. So they were like, let's like do this inventory story and give Paul the room to work on it.
That was, I will say, it was a little weird when like the two girls like kissed Wildfire, and he was like, "Whoa!" I was like, What?
Well, that's very like Roy Thomas. Like that's like that's closer to comics that like he like. Like that's what
Right. No,
comics were.
I get it. It was kind of, I mean, it's of the time. Like, okay, for a side note, my daughter is really into Teen Titans Go, and we watch it all the time as a family now. And she loves it. And I go, hey, this is based off comic book characters. And I showed her the omnibus of George Perez and Marv Wolfman's Teen Titans. And of course, Starfire has her boobs flopping out of her thing. And she's like, Daddy, how come we can see her boobs? I was like, different times. So
yeah,
like you said,
and it's a different time, but also it's for an older audience. Like Teen Titans Go is really for kids, and even at the time, like New Teen Titans by then was really for teenagers. Like it was not.
That's fair. Yeah, not for kids. I get you. All right, great issue. Anything you want to say about that issue, Chris, before we move on?
I just really like when there can be those kinds of brief deviations. I mean, some of my favorite issues in longer term runs delve into either the origins or the recalibrations of specific characters. And I mean, who doesn't like Wildfire when you read the Legion anyway? I have yet to really find somebody, but adding an element of tragedy to the way that he kind of comes into the fold, at least I mean, that's how I kind of read it, at least.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and good character driven issues, hard to go wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, but we lost Paul for some reason. See, he does this every time I start talking. He just leaves, and I don't know what I do to scare him off. But hey, I guess.
Yeah. But no, it was good, and it's a good way to then lead into that's 284 where that's really like Paul. He's wiped the slate clean, and we're really getting into his run, and it's a great it's a really dynamic cover.
This issue is kind of crazy though too. I mean, it is all over the place, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think that was like the 2010 deluxe edition hardcover. It actually starts here, I believe.
It does. That's the version I have.
There it is. Yeah. I sold that book. I don't have a copy of it, but hey, very nice.
Paul Levitz. Yeah.
Yeah. Where did you get that signed at?
Midtown Comics.
Oh, nice. Yeah. But yeah, you guys in New York, you just like everybody comes to Midtown, but especially when DC was based there, right? But one of the things that like this issue, at least the first time I read it, it was kind of hard to follow just because it does bounce around a lot. But the camaraderie of the team is the thing that just like really sucked me in, especially with the way that it begins. But there's a lot going on here.
Oh yeah, it's so dense, and it's I believe to your point, I think the next issue is when they start doing the backup stories, and he starts like they do backups for a few issues, but I think this first issue, and I have to imagine it's to your point, right, where there's so much going on, and he was probably like, maybe I need to just like separate some of these characters and give them like their own little thing to do, and have a little more focus here. But I do think, like you're saying, it starts really strong. It starts in a way where like you could see if someone picked up this issue and read from there, that it's still like a rewarding experience. He does a pretty good job at like setting up the character interactions and all of that right off the bat. I still think you really are better off reading from way earlier to really appreciate all of these characters. But I do think Paul does a good job in this issue showing as many characters as possible, interacting to kind of be like, let me catch everyone up to where things are and the relationships, and start putting the pieces on the table that I'm going to be advancing or taking off. So
yeah, this is, you know, probably like you said, like it's just more of like, this is how many people are going to be in this book, and the art isn't the strongest, but it we'll I'll just leave it there. As we move on here. But yeah, this is where things start to get. He starts. Paul's building at this point for sure. Like just kind of a bunch of random, like a lot of side plots and stories that he's building on into here, which continues into this issue here. Anything in particular you wanted to mention here, Joe?
Well, like you were saying, like with Pat Broderick, it's like, it's funny seeing, like, you know, you almost feel bad because it's like, it's not the best. It's more dynamic than some of the stuff during like Conway's run,
For sure.
But you know, it still has a little bit of like, I don't love how a lot of the faces are drawn.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of men end up having the same face. And you know, but like I was saying, you almost feel bad because it's like, oh, and then you get this is the one that introduces the backup issue, the backup story that keeps Giffen. And you see the start, and you can tell that it was like, oh, this guy, and like it's only a few issues later that it was like, sorry, Pat, and Keith gets, you know, the big promotion, and you can see why, because while it is an interesting story, I do like what they're doing, you know, in this issue, and it's setting some interesting things up. That backup, when Keith is drawing it, of you know, what Dream Girl's doing, and the whole, like, it's not like it's a fairly self-contained story. Like there's an issue on our home planet, and it gets resolved quickly, but it was like, this looks really good. And again, there's some level of setup payoff because, you know, her sister and her homeworld become pivotal during the Great Darkness Saga.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So we get to touch on that and be like, oh, let's remind the reader of this place, and then go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so kind of piggybacking off of that, as we're getting kind of more stories, like I would say, like at this point, the backup is probably more critical to the overall story, with the exception of the Chameleon Boy story. But like, which I gotta tell you, like the Chameleon Boy stuff gets a little convoluted for my taste. That's probably my biggest criticism of his run so far, is the whole Chameleon Boy thing still doesn't make sense to me. I was hoping you guys could help me make sense of that eventually. Not like the but like why he goes off on the, you know, but whatever. Anything you want to mention on this story specifically here, guys?
Well, I love, like, I think, like, as this is, you know, Paul flexing that he's an old school fan. And it's like,
sure,
let's bring back this Jim Shooter villain who's only shown up one other time, and just let's have some fun. And you know, it ends up like, I'm friends with someone who this was the very first issue, like, he picked up when it came out, and that's when he became a Legion fan. But like, you know, you get this, you know, pretty interesting story. One of the other things that sucks about it too is this is probably Pat Broderick's strongest issue art-wise.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like he finally started really doing some good work on the book, and then it was like, you're out. And like, it's still not as good as Keith, but like, if this was the quality of his first issue, maybe he would have stayed on longer. I don't know. But like, I feel like the art was noticeably stronger here than the previous two. And it's a shame he didn't get to do maybe backups or some other things later on, or like really come back to the book, because I think after he did eventually get to a good place with it, but ultimately, yeah, it was for the best that he was gone. But it was good seeing Dr. Regulus again.
Well, and just I'm bringing this up on here right now because look at these layouts. So this is the so right now we're at the backup of this issue we were just talking about, which look at this. You go from this, which is not
Right.
terrible, to like this, and I'm like, whoa. And so I sent you a gif of, he's a horrible person, but Vince McMahon gifs, I love him. I can't help it. But like where he's just like, before it's like he's not, Vince McMahon is not, he's kind of, oh, what's this? Reading before Legion. And then after like reading these pages, I'm like, oh, like, all right, like these layouts, man, these are fantastic. Like, holy hell, I gotta tell you, go ahead.
Perez may have taken some lessons here, maybe.
Yeah, right.
It seems a bit.
You think so?
I think in terms of some of the layouts, it's very evocative of the kinds of things.
Look at this.
But also too, like this is also, Joe, is this before Legion ends up selling like on par with New Teen Titans?
This is on that like rise. Like we start like while Keith's on the book, like it's not here yet, but like that's when it really starts going on par with New Teen Titans. And I think you're right. I think especially when you look at like a story like this, like you see this a lot like in his Wonder Woman run, I think.
Yeah, sure. But Paul, can you also go to page 14 real fast?
Yeah, sure. One second. Let me go back to sharing that here. Yeah, it was. This is the nice thing of having DC Infinite like up right here. I don't like to show pages outwardly, but what page is what page is 14? I'm sorry, I can't read the bottom very well.
Keep going. I'll tell you.
Someone to stop.
It's.
No, we have to go back here.
All right, sorry.
Back for a little while now. No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, you mean like in past the Giffen stuff?
Yeah.
Back to the Broderick stuff. Yeah. So
yeah. I got you.
Almost there.
Right here.
That's 14.
Is this page 14?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going under the DC. Let me double check. It's
you're good.
Can't see. Oh, back one more.
One more.
Oh wait. Oh, geez. I'm sorry. Wait, we're on a different issue. I thought we were on 285.
Oh well, we can go.
I'm
cool. Like we could go back an issue and do that. Sure.
Well, no, it's fine. It's just
want to go back.
Hernath. Is that how? I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not. Who's on Projector's homeworld, but he's like the horse guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the horse guy. Yeah.
I just love the horse guy. That's all I wanted to say. It was all of
no,
this.
The horse guy. It's like it's fun. Like I love like some of the stuff Paul's doing. Like with the horse guy, with even like the alien monsters and like his like 284. Like they're not necessarily my favorite designs, but they really get this like A for effort. Like they're going for it. Like he's like, let's draw weird stuff. This is the future. These are aliens. Let's go for it. I think Keith has better instincts with that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
so really quickly, I just want to say I just absolutely adore this storyline with Princess Projecta and Karate Kid. Like I'll be honest, these characters I could give a rat's ass about before, Joe. And now like I'm like Keith and Paul single-handedly have made me actually interested in these characters. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, it's stupid ridiculous how much I actually really love the story. So
Yeah.
I was like,
No,
it's really good.
It's really good, and I can't wait as we continue and you see where that relationship goes. It's really interesting. So
I'm stoked. I'm in. So moving on to the next issue here. So we're getting far into the weeds of like the Chameleon Boy and all this whole thing. Like, I'll be honest, I'm so confused of what Chameleon Boy is up to. Is he just trying to impress his dad at this point?
well, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is he wants to impress his dad. He wants to impress the Legion. Like, there's a lot of like because I'm sure you've noticed, like, this is Paul elevating Chameleon Boy because
Right.
he's a strong character. He's an interesting character. He's been the head of the Legion espionage squad, but like when you go through like Conway's run and all that, like he's not really used. Like there's not really a lot going on with Chameleon Boy.
Yeah.
And the one thing they kind of do, which is one of those things that I think is kind of cheap, it's a cheap writing ploy often, is oh well, we'll make we'll make RJ Brand his dad because that's
Right.
instead of like having Chameleon Boy go on a journey, we're just going to do that. So this was Paul reacting to that and being like, okay, I have to have Chameleon Boy go on a journey. What can I do to do that? Okay, well, it was head of the espionage squad. So it has to be something with that. So let's have him deal with the fact that his dad is RJ Brand. And another thing, too, as you were reading these stories, I'm sure you also noticed they just made RJ Brand his dad and then like never really did anything with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Paul's coming at this with like, what the fuck? No, like this guy would be like, what the fuck? I joined this team. I've been here for years and you were my dad the whole time. And he's like having a genuine meltdown about it.
Yeah.
And
but they're fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're taking that approach of like Paul is just like, no, like this guy's really got to react to it. And then he uses that to change he stealthily uses that for a bunch of status quo shifts because he specifically picks certain people to go with him, and then he's able to create rifts in some relationships, bring other people closer together, which we're going to get into in the coming issues. But like that's so much of it is like, okay, I need to elevate characters and also mess around with some of these relationships. They're getting too stale.
Yeah. And really quickly, well, I'll share my screen here real quick. And, before we move on here, we'll kind of getting up a little bit faster here. Let me show you. I'd be remiss not to show this, I think. So 1 second here. Chris, will you throw off the cover for me? So this is what yeah. So this is what we get in this issue, besides like the weird, the Chameleon Boy trying to impress everybody, is we have to see the foundation of the Great Darkness Saga in this issue alone. And we see here Mon-El and Shadowlass, and and how he's already telegraphing what's going on, which in the trade that I have, they only have like a couple pages of this. They have this backup that truly is showing you like the foundation of this. Yep. So I thought that was pretty cool. So moving on to the next issue here. This is, I believe is the end of the Karate Kid and Princess Projecta story, right? This one?
Yep.
Okay. Is this where Keith takes over full time?
I think, let me see. This is
I'm
when
looking.
this is the first issue he does the art for all of the issue.
That's right.
Like
Okay.
there's no Pat Broderick like backup or anything. It's purely Keith. Like Pat's like off the book after this completely.
This issue is when I started going like, okay, I get it now. Like because you have a great story by Paul, and I'm actually gonna throw up the comic because there's so many great pages in this. I'm just gonna throw it up because it's so freaking good. The um the issue, the layouts of this are so good. And Keith is such a great storyteller. When you have a great storyteller like Paul Levitz, telling the narrative, but then we get like these great, interesting like layouts, super kinetic and interesting, dramatic. I mean, it's just I started falling in love with it right in this issue. And like, look at this. Like, we have a 12 panel layout. Oh, love it. Like,
Yep.
so dynamic. And like you can do 12 panel layouts when you have a lot of characters going on. I mean, like, I know a lot of artists and writers like to do it now with like one character, and that's cool. But like, it's a lot more, I think, effective when you have multiple characters in it, but yeah, these layouts are just I absolutely love this issue.
He's so good. I mean, even on what was it, page 2, I love how you get Princess Projectra, and like you look at how she's losing hope, and like that is in fucking genius. That is what incredible craftsmanship to just like, it just guides your eye down, and you see her descent. Like, it's so well done.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. Like and this honestly is what culminated like me loving this arc of like this little arc they do, which I just want to say like really quickly here. I want to get to like spoiler alert, the last page here, which the last page I think is a great payoff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get there here real quick. And for those who don't know, like I can't even do this thing justice. Like, go read the story, man. It's a fantastic story. Like, the Legion all team up together, and everything. It's great, but the very end is, look at this. I mean, come on. It's so good. So good. And it really sets up like how like powerful and important like Princess Projecta and Karate Kid are now. Like, Paul does a great job leaving us there. So this is one of my favorite issues of the run, even of the Great Darkness Saga. Love this. Chris, anything you want to add on this? You're muted. All right. We'll get to him eventually. I can't hear a word you're saying. I'm not sure if your computer died or not.
Sorry.
There
it is. No, I mean, this is really where, like, I have a really soft spot for Brainiac 5. And it's like around this time, I think, where some of his internal monologues start to become very familiar to the wider, like to the more recognizably modern characterization of Brainy, where he's kind of a dick, but he's a lovable dick. And I feel like that must have been Levitz, clearly. And it's such a strong element because someone with that name, you would kind of expect to be a little bit of a repelling personality, but he always brings it home with the heart. And it's one of the things that makes him such an enduring character, at least for me. But it really feels like he's starting to come into his own here and become a very, very strong element of the cast. And probably the first Legionnaire I think of, if I'm being honest, when I think of the Legion.
Let's let's speed through these next couple issues here. But go ahead, Joe, and we'll speed through this next two before we get to the Great Darkness Saga. But go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, no. But I'll also touch on, we get the there's a short where right before that annual, where it's drawn by Carmine Infantino, and it's like Brainiac 5 dealing with the ramifications of what happened to Matter Eater Lad. So like part of this is I'm so glad you guys read that story, because it's really like Paul really delves into that and does something with it. I think, to piggyback on Chris's point, Brainiac 5 before this was written in a very like he was either just like sort of a brainy guy for the most part, or like Jerry Conway went like arguably just too far and was like, he's a lunatic now who's like just completely lost his mind. And what Paul did is he never erased that happening, while also moving the character forward and making him more nuanced and interesting. A lesser writer, and we've seen this happen in comics countless times, someone else would have came along and had been like, that wasn't actually Brainiac 5. The original Brainiac created a Brainiac 5 clone, and the clone ended up doing that, and now we've discovered that he was really a clone or an android the whole time, and would have just done that, wiped the slate clean, and brought back the Brainy we had loved before that. But like Paul has such respect for the history of the book, and also it's important to note, prior to this, we get the whole bit where Donnie finds in the because it's worth just mentioning what happens quickly in A Cold and Lonely Corner of Hell, where Donnie ends up finding them, but Saturn Girl and Timberwolf are in sort of like it. They're getting close, and it's like it becomes an awkward situation. So which sets up further drama. Mm-hmm.
Right, which we get the setup here, which I like to define. I love this cover. The cover is worth the reading the comic alone.
Oh, yeah.
I have a couple things we'll touch on real quick. My only thing, this one was finally to get to see this figured out was nice. I hate Timberwolf looking normal. It sucks. I hate it. Like what the hell? Like give me back my white eyes and little pointy Ace Ventura hair, please. Like I miss that. I want that.
I got it.
But this issue was cool. Obviously, going back to this annual callback. Obviously, because previous villains. I'm remembering correctly. Also introducing the new, and also introducing a new which
Invisible Kid.
Invisible Kid, right? The new French Invisible Kid. This was was a very long, probably a little too long of an issue, to be honest, but creative, interesting nonetheless. Anything on the next couple of issues, guys, you want to touch on real quick?
The things here are, again, first off, we get the new Invisible Kid, and Paul Levitz does a great job of like, like he's French, he's black, like he goes for it. He's trying to like show something else with this team, which is really nice to see, especially after previously in one of the issues before this, we have said specifically there's just like a quick Poochie had to go back to his home planet moment where they're like, and we got Tyrock's resignation.
Yeah, right.
Because Tyrock was always disliked by fans. He had a bad design. His powers were a bit too hard to define, and he just never worked. So Paul thoughtfully was like, well, let's bring in a new black character who you know, and let's have him be the new Invisible Kid and have a very like concrete sort of power that, you know, that we can still play with. But this introduces more interaction between the science police and the Legion that's set up in this annual. That is something that persists more from here. Siobhan shows up quite frequently on and off in Legion stories from here on in as their you know, as their science police liaison. We get you know, in the previous issue, and then I believe in this issue, we finally get rid of the Dave Cockrum and Mike Grell really horny costumes.
Ugh.
And like
Oh my
Saturn
God.
Girl, and it's done perfectly. Saturn Girl's just like, oh, I had a backup costume, and then like sort of the same thing. Like Cosmic Boy's like, oh, I just worked on a new costume, and like done. We're not dwelling on it. We're changing them, and we're moving on, and we're going to act like that never happened. And I think
Cosmic
was
Boy
really
was
great.
like, you know, I've never been used to this, but it looks pretty good. And he's right.
Yeah, and
He's
like
not wrong.
you get some great moments with the team here dealing with Computo. You get you build more on Brainiac having to confront the problems from the past. Like it was a great pull from Paul to bring this one-off villain from a pre-Jim Shooter issue who had previously killed one of Triplicate Girl's triplicates, which is why she was Duo Damsel. So it's like, oh, like we can play with the fact that like Brainy has messed up and it's cost Legionnaires something important. He caused this harm to Duo Damsel. He caused this harm to Matter Eater Lad, but he ends up saving the day by bringing in this new Invisible Kid, trusting him. He makes the right call, and like it's just, you know, there's a lot going on. It's very dense, but it accomplishes a lot moving forward. And you also have the character of his sister and like what's going to happen to her. And you know, that's not dropped here. You know, we go into that later on of like how is she healing? Same thing with Matter Eater Lad. Like, you know, he's setting up a lot here, and that's great.
Yeah. So let's go off to the beginning of the real saga, the true right here. And I gotta tell you, right off the bat, guys, I'm curious if I feel like Keith upped his game right here. Like he was doing great work, but as I'm looking at these issues and pages now, this is where he really he elevates his game, where the pencils are tighter, they're a lot more cleaner, and a lot cleaner, excuse me, better English. And the layouts are just there's on fire. It really felt like he kind of got what he needed to do here. Curious, you know, I have to run for a quick second. I'm gonna be having my headphones in, but Joe and Chris, I'm curious, does this art and stand out to you right off the bat? Like when this issue particularly, because it kind of jumps out at me like, oh, is there a new inker? Maybe, I don't know, but like it just jumps out at me more so in this. Okay, well there you go.
Yeah, no, it's
okay.
No, but Larry Malstead is the inker here, and what was it? He's done a lot of stuff over the years, but I think what most fans probably know him from is, I believe he inked like a lot of like Spider-Man in the 90s. If I'm remembering right. Like I think, yeah, like he inked like just a ton of stuff. You know, but yeah, like he was a popular inker in the 90s. I think this might be some of his earlier work, but it absolutely, like, Keith, I think really shines with him in particular. Like the Bruce Patterson stuff it's still very good, but Larry just knows like what to emphasize. Like they just click so well. I think block looks a lot better inked by him, I think. You know, and just like the faces and the expressions, like in general, like I feel like Larry adds like little more touches in the face, like a little more lines in the face to get some of the emotions across.
You know, something I came across when I was looking around just for other information about these issues is apparently for collected editions, they were recolored. Like in Invisible Boy 2 or Invisible Kid 2's costume, I guess in the original issue was white, but in these collected editions it's yellow. And I wonder what the rationale was for something like that. I mean, not that it's like a massive change necessarily, but why would they move away from the original design? There was a side by side. I think it's Comics Archaeology took a closer look at it, and yeah, it is kind of weird. Like, why would they have done that? Uh, did they think it would just stand out a little bit more, or was there something
Maybe.
else to it?
I wonder if, like, because there's a few things it could be, right? Maybe that was the original intention and it was a mistake that the colorist made. Like, that sometimes that happens. Maybe it was, well, we wanted to do that, but we didn't think the printer at the time would have been able to, you know, have it come out how we wanted. Like, there's a few things
Sure.
like that. I always feel like, I don't know, sometimes changing colors and stuff. I know some artists are really like big on that. I don't like the Walt Simonson stuff, for example, on Thor, but like,
Mhm.
you know, it's tough. I personally tend to lean towards not changing the colors either way, but
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, well, we had a whole conversation about that when it came to Killing Joke, if I remember correctly, right? I mean that
Well,
book's
yeah,
been
Killing
recolored
Joke was
like three
another. Yeah, and it sucks because like in so many of these cases, it's always like, well, it was recolored by like the line artist or something. Like, you know, with that, I think Brian Boland did the updated colors,
Yeah, yeah.
and it I'm sorry, it sucks. Like I do not care for the updated colors at all.
I
But
recall. Yeah. Oh, and it looks like Phil Owen said that Invisible Kid only had the white costume for this one issue. Maybe they just wanted consistency. Very possible. Maybe they were just kind of feeling it out initially in the original appearance here before they decided to course correct or at least just make consistent with future appearances. I'd be curious to know when in the process that recoloring decision took place.
yeah.
Like if it was before that 2010 collection, or maybe it was even before that. One of the things that I
Yeah.
really like in the hardcover collection that you have, Joe, is
Yeah.
Levitz in the introduction talks about how collector editions didn't exist when these were coming out. These were designed
Yeah,
to be read as periodic.
yeah, it was like he's straight up like I think like it's yeah, like that's like the title basically. Yeah. These stories weren't meant to be collected is the title of the essay.
Which is, but I mean, that is good context for revisiting stories like this, right? Because they are, even though this is an ongoing story and comics had done serialized storytelling for a long time, there is like a degree of a vacuum that each individual issue before like the mid 90s has in comparison to pretty much everything else that would follow when they realized that, hey, 6 issues fills a trade, so we'll distribute the stories that way. But
Yeah.
that's not to take
And
away, like,
now
yeah.
no, and now that logic is changing too because now they have the technology to properly put out like these different like omnibus collections and compendiums and things like that. And so it's like it's like we could do stories for the trade, but like now we can kind of like, people are so used to trades. Like, do we really need to have the story end at an exact, like, can it be a cliffhanger? Why not? Like, so I'm going to be curious how that's going to affect collections moving forward, because you have compendiums. You also have like epic collections. So it's like, oh, do you want 6 issues or 20 issues or 50 issues in like one thing? There's so many formats now. It's interesting.
It is. I did want to get your perspective. So this is the issue, I believe, where we meet Antonio Stefanacci, the magician. That's Doctor Strange, right?
I mean, I believe Keith was a big Doctor Strange fan at this point.
Sure. Yeah. It's just funny
and no, it is. And Paul always loved, like, he loved like the Ditko stuff, but he also, his big thing was Avengers, which he finally got to do a few years ago.
Yeah.
He did like an Avengers story that took place like during the Silver Age. So he got to write like the Wasp being very like horny. Because that was like an ongoing thing Stan always had with Wasp in those early issues, is she would just be like, "Ooh, I love seeing 2 men fight over me," or like stuff like that. It was just like, what are we doing? But
well, but of course, the major punch in the gut that this issue brings is that we get to see the first servant just knock the crap out of Superboy and really kind of take him off the board for a while. What do you make of that moment? Because it's like we don't really have a very good idea at this point, and we won't for the next few issues about what's going on. But there's a serious threat here, and that part of it kind of falls, not too much, but I think it falls a little bit into that trap of, well, let's have our villain knock the crap out of Kal-El to illustrate that he's a big deal. But it kind of works, normally I don't really like that trope, but here I feel like it's kind of appropriate for what they're doing.
Yeah, because things are coming together, and I think it's also like a nice way, because after this story and all that, we get to a point where Superboy's again like not really a part of the team, and like we'll be seeing less of that. So like it's also kind of the Great Darkness Saga is also kind of like a nice send-off for Superboy in the Legion for a while. Like it's just like, but yeah, having him getting beaten up by the servants, but like what I think works here is it's not like just Superboy, and we're seeing some of the other servants coming around, and it feels like things are building up. Like I think when that trope works the least, it's just when a new badass shows up and beats the crap out of someone, and like that's the only thing that's really happening. But there's enough other things happening here that I think makes it all end up pretty compelling.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a Phantom Girl who is like, she tries to go through the servant, and she's like petrified by cold, and that's pretty damn creepy, and like we don't know who we're hearing yet, but the servant is called to his master, of course. And I thought it was a nice little bit of misdirection that the portal was not a boom tube, because someone would have figured that out. If it was like plonk, the sound was like plonk or plunk or something like that.
Yeah.
And if they had gone with boom, they might have given it away a little bit, and is just of sound effects.
We should probably get wrapping everything up a little bit here. But I wanted to talk about like I was hearing everything you were saying. I had to get some stuff ready here. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about was I liked the minions. They were totally ambiguous of what they were before, but they were hinting at like the past. That was really cool because I don't have a lot of dark side knowledge, but the little I did, like you guys were saying, the boom tubes, like the minions he has, and like and the people, like these are all 100% away from what Darkseid was, and it was cool to build up to that moment of like again, like you brought up beating up on Kal-El, like that's a nice touch because even though it is a trope, it makes in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense, right? So I love all that. One of the things that I want to talk about, like I like the whole idea of like these different servants and everything. What are we gonna do now? We obviously get. I'm gonna have to reveal what talk about the reveal of Darkseid to get to the reveal of this, because I have like it feels like the one minor thing of the story that I'm like, it's a little rushed, is the reveal of Orion, like as the baby.
Well, Allfather's the baby.
Oh, wait, that's where I was confused. So Allfather was the baby.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but he gets older and then brings back Orion for a split second, and then he disappears.
One of the what was it? It was one of the servants is Orion, and he turned
That's right. Okay. Okay. That's right.
Yeah. So Darkseid was already using Orion, but Allfather's able to do that. But yeah, it's all through the White Witch, and they do the whole thing where it's like it's the magic that she's able to do, and because she is, and this is really when we get the White Witch becoming like a Legionnaire. Like she had appeared once or twice before, and this is really her. This is Paul bringing her into the mix and showing her strengths and what she can do, and how they're able to work together to bring back like a phantom. It's basically a phantom of Allfather, of just like he's not like really back. It's like they're bringing back it's a rebirth of him. He had died, so they're able to sort of summon him briefly in this form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So okay, it was a little confusing for someone like myself. I was like, okay, what happened here? Like it was a little just couldn't really grasp everything. But I loved the servants being connected to the DC. Obviously they're connected here or there.
Yeah.
I loved getting this issue obviously was incredible. I mean, these covers are incredible. All the covers have been amazing, but this issue is chef's kiss regardless. I mean, you're talking about a DC, like getting like all the different legions, like all the different backup people, and then you have like also Supergirl coming back for a quick second, touching on the relationship between Brainy and Supergirl for a quick second. Like this issue is just, it's an all-timer in my obviously it's like the cover of the it's a cover of the trade. Yeah, but this truly is like it is a phenomenal issue. Like was this as well regarded? Is this what people remember like when they think of like a great DC issue? Is this like regarded as one of the top, like, I'm assuming it should be. Is it fantastic?
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, this is like fairly recently. The Great Darkness Saga in general, I think, has been fairly recently ranked in like the top. I forget where in the top 50, like comic book. I don't even think it was just DC. I think it was Marvel and DC, like comic book storylines of all time. Okay. So yeah, it's very highly regarded. and like you said, it's just great seeing everyone, and I'm sure you appreciate it again, like a lot more, having come at it with like, oh, I've seen these other things. Oh, I know, I've heard of Brainiac's like, love for Supergirl and all of this stuff. I've seen some of these like substitute Legionnaires before. I remember Duplicate Boy. Duplicate Boy. That
Night
short,
Girl.
yeah, Night Girl. But like there was this short we read, one of the last things Jim Shooter did, where like Duplicate Girl was like jealous of Shrinking Violet, and was like causing trouble, and like so it's like, oh, he's back, and they play off on that too. Paul just like remembers everything and brings it all in. But yeah, you get these great sort of stories even leading up to this of how are we going to stop the servants, and then figuring it out, and Darkseid being this like all-powerful sort of figure that isn't seen and then gets revealed, and the whole bit where basically everyone all of like Mon-El's people like rise and like fly off the planet at the same time. We get
That was
that
rad.
nice, yeah, that was Keith Giffen has brought that up before, where he is like jokingly like complaining about Paul just being like, yeah, Paul, for one panel on a page with 5 panels, the description was, and the entire planet rises up and flies out into the but like
Ridiculous.
It's a really ambitious story. Like Paul wrote an incredibly ambitious story, a lot of really insane stuff. He gets to play with some of the best toys in the toy box, and he even works in some like that splash page, that double page spread, that's like a fine art reference. Like,
yeah, which one? Where's the double? What page is that on?
24, 25.
Okay, and these layouts are just this art is just so. Look at this. The splash page is just, so good. Like the art really, like you said about the inker, being a Spider-Man inker. I could totally see it, because holy moly, it is so good. Oh my god, look at this. Am I closer to it? Hopefully it'll do the.
It should be there any second. Yeah. It should. I mean, it's set up.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's just gorgeous,
dude. Like this issue is beautifully drawn. It's a beautiful I'm marveling at these splash pages that are just with all the thought bubbles or the dialogue that's worked in. Like, look at that.
Bouncing Boy get some action too.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
No, it's great. Like everyone's just back and getting involved. There's just incredible pages throughout.
Yeah.
And
calling everyone. Like, it's not just the reservists, right? It's not just the subs, it's everybody. They are all hands on deck. The battle is joined. That's what comic book storytelling is all about, like when you get those moments where it's time to put all the pieces together and just throw everything that you have at this unstoppable force, then you become the immovable object, right? And it's just a collision that explodes off of the page in the hands of a good creative team, which I think this absolutely counts as. But one of the cool things about
Kirby Crackle, man. Sorry,
what?
I just want to say that real quick. The Kirby Crackle.
No. Well, yeah. I thought you were like, wait, my sound's crackling. What the hell?
Yeah.
No. The Kirby Crackle.
Like,
this is also like, this is the issue where Darkseid really does ascend into like mythic proportions. You know,
Oh,
they talk
yeah.
about
Yeah.
it's the certainty of the history of the 20th century heroes, but Darkseid has kind of been forgotten, and
Yeah.
Apocalypse has been forgotten until they're standing on it, and all of a sudden these
Yeah.
like horrible myths are very real, and they don't really know what to do about it. So what do they decide to do? They're just going to throw absolutely everything that they have at this evil son of a bitch, and they're going to do anything within their power, which is rather considerable, to try to stop him.
Yeah.
And yeah, this brings it home in such a satisfying way. The actual like exit of Darkseid, the exit stage left, maybe it's a little bit unfulfilling, but
Sure.
the story did its job. You know, the
Yeah.
story absolutely does its job.
It's unfulfilling if you stop here, like, because Darkseid's not
Right.
gone.
Agreed.
Like, he still shows back. He comes back up, but it's also important to keep in mind, like, it took the White Witch and all of these other magic users so much power to just bring Allfather back briefly, to give them only enough power to break Darkseid's concentration long enough to lose hold of the Daxamites. That's all that
Right.
happens. Like, and that's just enough for Darkseid to be like, all right, I have to figure out a new strategy now. They really don't beat him in the way supervillains are beaten at the end of a story. It was, you broke my concentration too long. You're more of a problem than I thought. I guess I'm going to have to try harder next time. Is a terrifying conclusion to a Darkseid story.
Right. No, you're absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely love the story. Like, this lived up to the hype. I'm really glad I had all the history going into it.
Yep.
You know, and I will say that the couple of issues we had to read afterwards, this is where it made me, like, honestly, I can understand why this stuff was so exciting in the past. Like, I love, like, the next issue where it's like a fun little kind of callback to, like, the history of the Legion,
Yep.
with Block showing Timberwolf what's going on, like bringing why, like, the Green Lantern Corps is not really involved. I like kind of how that's getting kind of explained a little bit, and how they're still around, but they're not really welcome in the Earth times now. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Like, Paul's really, like, this is where that I was getting that Guardians of the Galaxy vibe after the Great Darkness Saga. I was like, okay, I'm getting a little, that Guardian stuff, and then we get this. I'm like, oh, this is totally Jim Valentino. Like, he totally ripping off, probably not, or more of an homaging, you could say. But yeah, these next couple issues are fun to read, and definitely set up status quo for what we're getting to next.
Yeah, no, I love these issues too. Like, there's nothing that we really have to spend time talking about compared to the Great Darkness Saga, but it's good to have these read already. I think it is, again, it's great. It shows how invested Paul is in all of this. Like doing like I'm going to explain why the Green Lantern Corps isn't here. Like, that's great. And that's someone who cares about this property and cares enough about the DC universe and is thinking of these things and trying to address them. Like, he is a fan writing this, and it feels like you're reading something that someone with the, like, deep love of a fan is putting together for the first time in Legion in, like, years at this point. Like, it's really not since Paul's last run that you had that kind of approach to it. You still had good stories, but they weren't coming from, like, a teen who's excited about the Legion, and this feels like, this feels like a teenager who's now a little older got his wish, and he has the skill to make it work, and he really does. And you know, he writes the Legion for like 100 issues, like around here, moving forward. Like,
I'm stoked to keep reading it because I liked what he was doing before, but this is great stuff. Especially, obviously, I know Keith won't stick around forever. He moves on eventually, but yeah, I absolutely adored these issues for the most part. When Paul gets in and him and Keith start cooking, it's chef's kiss, man. It's so freaking good. Chris, do you want to say anything about these couple of issues kind of as we get wrap up here?
No, I mean, it's just I just enjoyed these. You know, it's the team dynamic here really graduates to another level over the course of these years. Going to come into the door probably for the Great Darkness Saga specifically, but they're going to stay because this is a really well-defined dynamic. And you know, it's very interesting to me that this is effectively the upswing that puts it on the same level as New Teen Titans. I mean, that was DC's best-selling book for a while. And it's because of the character work. You know, it's not a book led by their marquee characters. You know, they might pop. There's much more likelihood they pop up in Teen Titans than, well, at least, you know, like Batman and Wonder Woman. There's more likelihood they pop up in Teen Titans than in Legion. You get a flavor of a marquee character in some Legion issues, but this is also a time where it seems like the Legion is like, you know what? Maybe we don't need Superman. Or, you know, deep connection to Superman to tell stories with these characters. They're pretty great on their own. The cast is extraordinarily diverse in terms of their personalities, in terms of their power sets, what they all bring to the table. And when you have the characters as well developed in the hands of such a strong creative team, which they clearly realized quickly that they had, that's a recipe for success in a creative endeavor. So I can absolutely see, after reading this story again in particular, why they overtook so many other titles at DC at the time. It's a shame that no one has really cracked the code with them over the past 15, 16 years. You know, I mean, they made some attempts, some valiant attempts, but a lot of like the modern Legion stuff is tied to Superman because that'll be what gets people in the door. But this is really a template of like how you build a book for long-term success by having a good creative team with a solid vision and some toys that you might not have played with before, but you might find, oh, there's a lot here that I could get out of it if I play with these toys. And yeah, it's just spectacular.
Also got to mention, since we forgot to mention before, great like Validus cameo in 294.
Yeah, he shows up for a split second. I love Validus. He's
like 5. Having Validus show up there, and that like, and the whole bit with like throwing the young Daxamite at him. And all of that, like it's just great. It was nice to get a little nod. There are more nods to come to like other Fatal 5 members do show up in
Fatal 5
future, Paul and Keith issues, and then like I was saying, I think we could do the Curse as one whole bit, and then we can go into sort of the lead up to and all the way like through Crisis. After that, and then there's some other like Fatal 5 stories, Universo Project, and some other stuff I'd also love to do.
I'm in, man. We're in for the long haul. We're gonna be covering the Legion forever, man. Because I'm sold. I'm a Legion fan. I have a Legion poster on my desk out in front. It's so it's I'm in. So as we wrap up here, Joe, what kind of projects you want to promote here before we head out?
All right. Well, there are a number of things I'm working on right now. There are some things like if you put me in on like Amazon or something, I
Yeah.
have some things that are probably listed that I don't know if they're announced yet or not, but like I can't stop you from just typing my name
Fair enough.
into Amazon.
Fair
But
enough.
so yeah, so look up there. But I have a decent back catalog of books, as well as follow me on like Instagram at Corallo Joe. That's CORALLOJOE. I'm looking to maybe post some comic related stuff on. I mean, I'll post news about what I'm working on there, but I may post occasional like 1-panel or 4-panel comics coming up. I'm in the process of figuring that out, and with an illustrator. I can't draw, but
I can't. I wish I could.
Right, but no, definitely be on the lookout for that stuff. And I will be at Emerald City.
Oh, dude! All right.
Couple weeks. So
okay.
So yeah, I will.
Holler at me. Holler at us. We'll try to meet up. We'll try to.
Yeah.
If you have time. I know you're busy. You get some lunch or dinner or whatever. So.
It'd be great. Like lunch one of the days would be awesome. Like we should figure it out. But I'll be there.
Holler at us.
Yeah, and I'll also be at C2E2 coming up. So
nice. Right on. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Chris, why don't you take us out, my friend?
Read more comics.
Yes, please. Read more comics. See y'all next time. Have a good